Hello, my name's Patrick Blaylock. I'm 39 years old. I've been driving a truck for 17 years. I've driven in different types of trucking situations, so different types of trucks and so on and so forth. I got into driving a truck because I needed a job. My dad was in the industry for over 40 years. I had a child on the way, and I asked him to help me get my CDL, and he did. So that was pretty quick and easy. Some of my driving accomplishments are I've got over 1 million safe miles in various different types of equipment, and I've got experience pulling over-dimensional equipment. So that's really my accomplishments. I've never done any sort of competition, even though I've wanted to do a driving competition. You know, to answer some of these questions that are on the questionnaire, I've driven in all sorts of driving conditions. I've driven in blizzards, high winds and storms, flooding rain, hail, sleet, dangerous storms that would be tornadic. I've seen tornadoes on the highways when I've been out there. I've driven in ice and sleet, of course. Driven over mountains in that. I've had to put chains on just once because it's always been my opinion if I need to put chains on, I just need to be off the highway. It's just a safer way to do it, and that's the way I was taught by my dad. So, but I've been in all types of conditions, delivered various types of freight to oil field locations, right-of-way locations, job sites, construction sites. I've been into Canada. I've been into military locations and establishments. I've several different bases. And I've hauled construction equipment, I've hauled steel, I've hauled obviously building materials like sheetrock and lumber. I've hauled containers, I've hauled a car on a trailer, I've hauled livestock in trailers, I've hauled hazardous materials, high valued electronics. I've pulled combinations and pups of doubles and triples. I've pulled double vans, Rocky Mountain sets, and I've pulled stretched flatbed trailers that were stretched out to 80 feet. I've hauled loads that were as wide as 17 feet and as long as 85, and I've taken those loads all over the country. I've been in 43 of the lower 48 states. I've driven 2-axle trucks from the time I was 18. I was driving a 2-axle dump truck at one of my first jobs I had. I've driven a 3-axle dump truck. I've driven trash trucks. That was my first 6 months driving a truck after I got my CDL, was a trash truck on a rural route. I've driven obviously an 18-wheel combination like my tractor here. I've driven, like I mentioned before, a 7-axle combination on triples in the LTL industry. I've done day-to-day driving as a pickup and delivery driver in the LTL industry, as well as I've done long haul, obviously in flatbed. For about 9 years I worked at Old Dominion Freight Lines, and after the first 2 years as a driver, I inquired about a supervisor position, interviewed, and they gave me an opportunity. And so I was at Old Dominion for about 9 years. After 2 years, they were looking for a supervisor, so I interviewed for it. And they gave me an opportunity, and not only do I have over 1 million miles on the highway in a big truck, and probably 1.5 million if you add in all the other types of equipment I've driven, I worked my way into operations manager of Old Dominion Freight Line, so I have experience also managing drivers, as well as worked in the shop as a mechanic. It's just kind of what I know. It's what I've been around my whole life, and so it's something I enjoy. You know, one of the questions was asking about if I come across any accidents or any acts of heroism, and I don't think I've ever done anything heroic, but there was a time when my twin brother and I, he has also got a CDL. We were heading out to Las Vegas with a load of steel out of Oklahoma City, and we stopped at the old giant truck stop in New Mexico, over there in Gallup, New Mexico. And I looked in my mirror right after we parked, and I saw my twin brother running with a fire extinguisher. I didn't know what was going on, so I just hopped out and grabbed mine. We ran back up to the corner of the property, and that was a combined transport truck that had blew a steer tire, and he was traveling westbound, but he was on his top facing eastbound. He was trapped in there for 50 minutes. So we aided with several other truck drivers in keeping him calm, putting fires out, making sure that you know, he was coherent and still talking for 45 minutes, because that's how long it took before they were able to get him out of the truck. And miraculously he ended up living, and he stayed in contact with my twin brother because he was kind of vital in talking to him. I just kind of managed the scene and made sure there was nobody in the sleeper and whatnot. But I don't really think that's anything heroic. I've seen many crazy drivers on the roads. When you haul stuff up and down these highways, you're going to come across a lot of odd situations, odd vehicles, people who get frustrated and get angry. I've seen people cut off truck drivers. One of my very first loads of pipe I ever hauled, I was in Houston, and I had a driver get angry at me because I wasn't able to go very fast on an on-ramp going up on the highway system because that was an older truck, and it just took it a moment to get going. He actually got in front of me and slammed on his brakes and brake checked me, and luckily I didn't hit him. And you know, my dad taught me to always be patient, so I didn't get too upset about it. I just kind of let him go on about his business and kept driving. And so you see a lot of crazy drivers out there, a lot of crazy situations. Now, one of the things that I think that makes me a good truck driver is I've done so many different parts of the job that I kind of understand a lot of the different perspectives of why I do this type of work. So being from a driver, you know, that's one portion of it. You're out there, you're meeting the customer, you're doing that part of the job every day, and that's what I do now. You're basically just a customer service rep. And so, but being on the other end of it in management and supervising people, hiring people, working on trucks, you know, growing up around my dad, who was a safety supervisor at one point in his career, and so on. I think that broad experience helps me to be a good truck driver because I kind of understand all the different parts that are involved in doing this job successfully every day. And then, you know, it's something I enjoy, and I think if you enjoy something, it's much easier to be better at it than if you don't enjoy it. So I enjoy the challenge of it, and I think that makes me a good driver, as well as that you have to be patient, and I'm patient. This is my rolling home when I'm in it, and everybody else that's on the highway is either trying to get somewhere in a hurry that's not, and they're not in their home. So I just kind of take it easy when I can, and try not to let it get me too frustrated, although I'm not perfect. There's been times when I'll get mad and say something to my invisible co-driver, but otherwise I try to stay calm and be professional out there at all times. You know, the hardest thing about driving a truck is being away from your family is the hardest part about being a truck driver. When there's a problem, you can't be there right away. You may be a couple days away from wherever you live. You may work for a company that doesn't let you buy the house except 2 days out of every 14 that you're, you know, out on the road or whatnot. And so for a truck driver, that's the hardest part, is being away from your family. And the second hardest part about being a truck driver, because I want to add this, is the ability to be patient in today's environment. Because everybody's go, 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 go. You notice everywhere you go, the speed limits keep going up over the years. And you see 75 mile an hour speed limits, 80 mile an hour speed limits, and everybody's doing 5 to 10 over. And you're a truck driver, and it's not that easy. You don't want to travel down the highway at 80 miles an hour, even if your tractor can do it, because it's not a safe condition. But yet you got all these vehicles that are passing you all the time going this high rated speed, so you gotta really be patient, stay on your toes, be aware at all times. And that's very trying on the person's mind. So other than that, this is something that I've been doing for a while. I really enjoy doing it. I think it's important, not only for the day-to-day lives of everyone, but it's an important part of just keeping the wheels turning in this country as part of the economy. And just a little shot of my truck real quick. It's a 2013 Kenworth T660 with the studio sleeper. It's really nothing too fancy about it. It's just a big truck. It kind of looks nice. She's a workhorse and she gets the job done. And so that's my truck, and I've got a load on there. Just a kind of a typical load I'll grab every now and then. This is just a load of bricks. And this is what I do every day. Whether it's hauling bricks or oversized equipment, or anything that'll fit on a flatbed, that's what I do.